Hello everyone, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm John Cartwright, and I'm joined by the radiant Ash Paulson. How are you doing, Ash?
I'm radiant. I'm feeling very special right now. I don't know the last time someone called me radiant.
Well, today's your day, man. And move over, sex, because today we're talking about Doom Eternal. And Ash, you had a chance to go to a 3-hour preview session for this game. How long did you play it for?
It was about 3 hours, to be honest, if not more. So the event started at around. There were 2 sessions. There was a morning session and an afternoon session. And thankfully, they were able to get me into the afternoon session because the morning session I would have had work. So I don't know if I could have gotten around that. But they were able to put me into the afternoon session, and I got there around 2, and I didn't leave until about 6. So I won't say all of that was playing, but I would say most of it was playing. And then there was like a 20-minute break period where we ate, some food they had there, and drank some water and stuff. But I'd say I played for, a little more than 3 hours.
I'm so jealous of you.
I was thinking about you the whole time.
I've gone through all your footage, watched all the trailers for this game. It looks so intense. But, of course, people can look at footage anytime they like. This time we're getting hands-on impressions from you.
Right.
So, Ash, one thing I want to know about is how varied is this game? Because the original Doom 2016 was a fantastic game. It was the Game Explained Game of the Year 2016 officially.
Right.
And I think one of its shortcomings, though, was the area variety. Like, you're either on Mars, in the spaceship, or you were in Hell. So, in your 3 hours, where did you go in Doom Eternal?
So, that was actually one of the things that the team members who were on hand at the event, they wanted to talk about, which was, hey, we heard the complaints, we heard what people said, that one of the main issues with Doom 2016 was there was not enough environment diversity. And so, they were specifically going for kind of increasing that diversity in Doom Eternal, even in just the beginning parts of the game. And I can tell you, man, that bears out from what I played. I mean, they basically had us play 3 hours from the very beginning of the game. And so, even just in that 3 hours, there was, the usual hellscape on Earth type environments, which are both, outside in the actual hellscape and inside dilapidated buildings and such, which had their own unique environmental features. But then there's also the Fortress of Doom, which is like this giant spaceship. I almost might even say it's too giant just because I got pretty lost in it fairly easily. There's so many places to go in it. But then I went to an icy area. It was like an ice snow temple type area. And yeah, so even in the first 3 hours of the game, I got hellfire, I got ice and mountains and snow, I got dilapidated temples, and I got, broken, rundown buildings, and I got a spaceship. So just in the first 3 hours, I saw quite a few different environments, I have to say.
It's kind of giving me vibes of Doom 2, where it's sort of taking the fight to Earth, and you get some enemies from Doom 2 in there too, like there's those spider robots that roam around. And it seems like just the enemy variety is a lot larger than the first Doom as well. Do you remember how many enemies you encountered over your time with Doom Eternal?
It was quite a few. I would say probably within the realm of 7 to 8, maybe. You're not overwhelmed with all these different kinds of enemies right from the very start, but they do introduce new ones at a fairly decent pace. And so, of course, you start off with your basic imps and your demon soldiers, the human soldiers that have been corrupted, by evil. But then you've got, as you said, the spider demons, which were just my worst nightmare. They are so hard to take down sometimes, and they are persistent. The spider demons, there were these flying demons that had jetpack type, wings, and they could fly around. There were the cacodemons, of course, which the glory kills in the cacodemons, as I'm sure you've seen in both my direct feed footage and the B-roll, are it's pretty grotesque. And then there also were these, toward the end of my playthrough, I can't remember what they were called, but they were these really fat demons, these really fat, ugly demons who took a lot of hits.
I know the ones you mean.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called, but they were also really scary. And just in general, the game is just about, as you would imagine, being Doom, it's just about pure action and carnage and intensity and blood and gore and rip and tear, and it's always in your face all the time. And if that's what you're looking for out of Doom, you're going to find it here in Doom Eternal.
It seems way more dynamic than Doom 2016 as well. I was watching the footage, and there was one point where you fire a grenade sort of thing into a cacodemon's mouth, and they swallow it and explode on the inside. And you can also chip away at enemies. You shoot at them, and parts of their flesh will come off, which I guess is a good indicator of how much health they have.
Yeah, I don't know about the flesh ripping off specifically. That none of the designers there mentioned that being part of the gameplay in terms of you being able to tell from a visual standpoint just how damaged they are. That just might be visual. But the example you used of firing a grenade into the cacademon's mouth, that's one example of what the designers like to talk about, how, the bigger, heavier demons have specific weak points that you can target, specifically to wear them down before you outright kill them. And so basically in that way, Doom Eternal awards skill shots. Like, you could just unload on a demon with shoulder-mounted turrets, or you could target those shoulder-mounted turrets and make it easier to defeat otherwise. So there is definitely strategy in Doom Eternal that's rewarded. Like, you can go in all guns blazing, but that's not necessarily the best thing to do. And for example, a cacodemon, those things are really tough, but if you, shoot a well-timed grenade into its mouth, you can get an instant glory kill and take it out with no fuss. And that's what I tried to do as much as I could, but believe me, those few times where I did miss the grenade, into the cacademon's mouth, I had to fight it the old-fashioned way, and that's a lot harder. So the game does meaningfully reward, skillful shooting and precision targeting, I would say.
I'm looking at the gameplay too, and the combat looks way more aggressive than previously. So in Doom 2016, I guess the main point was to always be in someone's face to, because of course you get weapon and health by doing glory kills, and that was just like a way to sort of stop you from being undercover. But it looks like Doom Eternal has brand new abilities like boosts and being able to use a shoulder flamethrower and all these other abilities. How did those sort of come into account? And was it kind of overwhelming to deal with that many abilities at once?
I wouldn't say so, because of the way they roll out the abilities to you. Like, you don't get the flame belch until maybe an hour and a half or a couple hours in, of course, depending on how fast you play. But the game doles out these abilities to you one at a time and explains exactly what they're there for. So the first thing you learn, glory kills. Okay, glory kills are done this way, and they make enemies drop health. Then you get the chainsaw later on. It's like, okay, this is how you use the chainsaw, and the chainsaw makes enemies drop ammo. And then you get the flame belch eventually, and that's like, okay, the flame belch, this is how you do that, and that makes enemies drop armor. So it's just really cool. Like, I don't want to say it's like the weapon triangle in Fire Emblem, but there is this really cool triad of elements that you always have to keep in mind, where you're always thinking on your feet. You're gonna be running out of ammo constantly, because the game is designed that way. They want you to be thinking about resource management at any given time. Like the weapon you start with, the combat shotgun, it can only hold 16 rounds. So you're always going to be running out of ammunition, and you're going to be getting hit, of course, right? So, at any given time, you're going to be trying to think, okay, not only what weapons and ammo do I have on me that I can take out or take enemies out from with a distance, but also, oh man, when do I need to get in somebody's face and get a glory kill to refill some health? Or use a chainsaw to, get some ammo. And the chainsaw is based on fuel, so you can't always guarantee you're going to have it ready. So in that sense, it really is about, managing your resources thoughtfully, switching weapons when you need to, and, remembering what sub-functions or mods each weapon has, so that you can kind of, keep what you need available. Like the combat shotgun, for example, one of its sub-functions or one of its mods is that it turns into that sticky grenade launcher that you saw in my footage. I needed that so much against the spider robots that I always tried to keep some shotgun ammo at the ready, just so I would have that ready to go if I needed it.
Sub-functions are very important. You can become very attached to a weapon over time, and one of the weapons I noticed in some B-roll footage was the assault rifle can sort of become a sniper rifle at one point.
Yes.
Which just sort of gives all these weapons a huge double purpose. Can you go over what weapons you used in your time with Doom Eternal?
Yeah, so I basically got to use three main weapons overall. You start with the combat shotgun, and one of its sub-functions, as you saw, is the sticky grenade, which I used early and often. It's incredibly useful. Whatever you fire it at, it sticks to the enemy, so, you can kind of fire and forget as long as your aim isn't too far off. And then, for example, I think the other sub-function for the combat shotgun is a full auto firing mode. So you can only unlock one, at the time when you first get your first upgrade point. You can't have both. You have to choose. Thankfully, I think I chose right. The grenade launcher is really, really useful. But eventually, you will be able to unlock both functions for each weapon, and each of those functions has upgrades that, can make that function even better. So there's a long weapon upgrade tree for each weapon. The second one I got was, as you saw, the assault rifle, which I think is called the heavy cannon in the game. And one of the sub-functions there is a sniper scope, which you saw. And I think, if I remember, the other one from memory is like a missile volley. You can lock on to a bunch of enemies, and then you fire a bunch of micro missiles. Forgive me, I might be getting some of the sub-functions mixed up between weapons, but I think that's what the other one was. I didn't unlock that one personally, though. And then the third one I got was the plasma rifle, which is super cool looking. It just fires this volley of spherical energy at whatever you're pointing it at. And it kind of reminded me of a Turok weapon, and just how it's colorful, it looks really cool, lots of colors. And then the sub-function I unlocked for that was like a micro laser explosion, where it's like you feed this little laser into whatever enemy you have it aimed at, and as long as you hold it, if you can, weather whatever damage you're taking, or if you're in a safe place, hold it for long enough, and that laser will eventually just explode whatever enemy you're basically firing into. So there are so many different ways to very, very, very violently destroy and dismember and just brutally maim whatever it is that's in front of you.
That's what we want to hear.
Exactly.
There was one point in the B-roll footage where I laughed out loud, like right at the very end of the clip. So basically, there's this point where the Doomslayer sort of takes control of one of the demons, which you could do in Doom's multiplayer, but not in the core single player. Mm-hmm. And it looks like he controls it with his mind and starts flying around controlling the demon. And once that segment's over, he grabs a super shotgun from the demon he was just controlling and just shoots it in the face immediately after controlling it. It's just a so well executed moment.
Well, that's something they were saying. Like the developers are saying that they realize that the concept of Doom and by extension Doom Eternal is just ridiculous. It's junk food. It's ridiculous. It's just it's low bar of entry, like violence and carnage. But they temper that with it's kind of a silly concept, but with a genuine execution. It's like, okay, we pull you in with the junk food factor, but then you find out, hey, there are actual nutritious elements to this, meal of a game we're serving you, and that if we pull you in with the junk food stuff, and then it's like, oh wait, there's real depth to this, and there's nuance to it. Like you are talking about the Cacodemon earlier. I don't know if you heard, but there's a very comical eye pop sound effect, it's very comical. An eye is just being popped out of a monster, and it sounds funnier than it actually is on screen because it's really violent and horrible, but it's just this goofy little comical sound effect, and so it definitely tempers all that carnage with kind of a funny, whimsical edge too.
Earlier you mentioned that you sort of got lost in the big spaceship area. I was going through the footage as well, and there are points where you do some crazy platforming. Is that always obvious? Is it always obvious where you're meant to jump to? Because your jumps can be absolutely massive in Doom Eternal.
I would say it's not always obvious, and that might be one of the few things I didn't love about it. Like, overall, I really enjoyed my time with the game, but I do think the environmental cues could be a little better at places where, because there are gaps that it doesn't seem like you should be able to cross if you've ever played any first-person shooter before, you can actually cross them in this game with all the movement and traversal abilities you get, but it's not always obvious where you need to go, and so if you saw my direct feed, you might see a few times where I jumped into a pit or tried to jump on some sort of environmental feature that it seemed like I'd be able to stand on, but you can't. And I wouldn't say that happens often, but it happened often enough that I would notice it when it did happen. Like, okay, I'm not quite sure where to go here, and the game isn't quite signposting it as well as I would like. But I would say, again, those experiences were the exception and not the rule. I would say in general it's a little easy to get lost, only because not only are the environmental cues not always up to snuff, but the areas do feel a little big sometimes. Like, I played through 3 main areas, and I had to stop during the third one. But the first 2 areas all felt like they could have been over just a little sooner. Like, again, it's not like it ruined the game, or not even close. I still had a great time, but it just got a little long in the tooth where I'd be like, okay, I feel like I've been in this area just long enough, and then it would keep going on for 30 more minutes. And so maybe the areas are a little long, I would say, and that's why, combined with the environmental cue thing, it feels like it's a little easy to get lost, but there is enough along the way, there are tons of optional paths and secrets you can discover off the main path that keep exploration interesting. It isn't just point A to point B.
Because in Doom 2016, you could basically jump, double jump, and grab onto ledges. Whereas in Doom Eternal, you can do all that, but also climb on rocks and do 2 boosts in the air, it looks like. There's some crazy mobility here.
I was going to say, this is something I specifically brought up to the development team in kind of a roundtable, not interview, but roundtable Q&A session they had, where, I gotta say, anyone listening to this, if you like Metroid Prime, this might be your game, because the way Doomslayer moves in this game feels remarkably similar to the way Samus moves in Metroid Prime, and what I mean by that is, as you said, double jumping was in Doom 2016, but in this, there's not only double jumping, but you can swing off of monkey bars. You can pull yourself up onto platforms. You can dash twice in midair, and dash even more than that if you get a pickup in midair, which you have to do in some of the later platforming sessions.
Wow.
And there's just so much of the game is not just about, well, I don't want to say so much, but some of the game is not at all about, pure firepower and killing monsters. Some of it is about traversal and platforming in a way that I haven't seen in a first-person game since Metroid Prime. But I want to temper that with the knowledge that I don't play a lot of shooters. I'm not a big shooter guy, and in fact, it's helpful to have you tell me what was not in Doom 2016 so I can kind of compare the two, because I didn't beat 2016.
I suppose another good thing about the similarities between Prime and Doom is neither of them have a sprint, but both characters still move at a very good speed. And I find in a lot of shooters the default running speed is just way too slow. But Doom doesn't need a sprint because it's always fast and frantic. You're always moving at a decent pace. Were those new traversal platforming abilities? Would they come in handy during combat as well? Or are they strictly for just getting to places?
Some of them are strictly for getting to places, like wall jumping. Oh, the wall climbing is super cool. I love the way that feels. But yeah, wall climbing and like monkey bar swinging, I would say those are mainly for traversal. But then you've got stuff like the dash move, which you don't get until a little ways in. And you can dash twice, and it has a quick cooldown. So you can dash around the arena, and that absolutely does help you in combat as well, and it just feels good. It kind of, if you played any of the, I think it was Deus Ex Mankind Divided, Adam Jensen had a dash move in that too, and it felt really similar to this. It just feels empowering, and almost maybe what it would feel like if you were playing like a Mega Man X game in 3D with X-Zero, the way they dash around. It's just like this fast burst of speed that makes you feel fast, it makes you feel powerful, and it just, it's a great feeling. Like, that's the thing about the movement in this game, is that it feels good. It feels visceral. It feels like you want a first-person game to feel, or at least like I want a first-person game to feel. It's not too constricted. It's not too slow or heavy. Doomslayer's really light on his feet. From what the developer said, they didn't speed up Doomslayer's movement speed from 2016 itself, but they complemented his movement with all these new traversal abilities to make it feel like he's faster and more agile and lighter on his feet than ever before, and I gotta say, it works.
It looks like it even extends to the weapons too. Like, one of the very first weapons they revealed for this game was the super shotgun with a grapple hook. So it looks like you'll even be able to use your weapons as a way to get from point A to point B. And I don't think you probably didn't see that in the first 3 hours, but I am interested if the later weapons will also have some kind of traversal ability too.
Well, I can say that there's so many different upgrades you can unlock, and that's, I think, one thing they said they're focusing on for Doom Eternal is the pacing of both, combat upgrades as well as suit upgrades to make you feel like you're constantly getting stronger. I don't know if that was an issue in 2016, but that's something they say they're focusing on for this game. But it's just, I think what I was thinking about was the suit upgrade. There's a suit upgrade that lets you execute glory kills from further away. And when they mean further away, they really mean further away. So, I can take out an enemy from a pretty decent, distance far away and then do the glory kill button, and I'll, Doomslayer will just shoot right to that enemy and take him out, in some horrifically violent way. But that's also a way to get from one point to another if you're trying to avoid another enemy. So all these things kind of, eventually work together in concert to kind of make the gameplay a lot deeper than it might initially seem. And I think that's what I like about it so much, is that it rolls out all these concepts one by one, gives you a little chance to kind of get acclimated with them, see how they fit into the overall puzzle that is Doom Eternal's combat, and then you start to learn how they all work together in concert, and they just layer on more things from there. And I will admit it, I was playing on the easiest difficulty because I'm not good at shooters. However, even on the easiest difficulty, it didn't feel too easy. It didn't feel baby easy, like I was being, talked down to. It's like, okay, we get it. You don't want a hardcore shooter experience, we understand, but we still want you to learn how to play our game. And I appreciate that.
It feels like this game just sort of builds upon the greatness of Doom 2016, but just layers upon new abilities, new ways to play the game, and it's sounding terrific. And also, one thing that I was curious about as well, which you kind of addressed to me outside of this discussion, but in Doom 2016, most of the story took place in lore. It wasn't directly told to you. Mm-hmm. And it was good, but I wouldn't say it was a mind-blowing story. However, Doom Eternal released this trailer lately, which it seemed insane. The story seems like it was really going places. Was that direct, or are we still looking for story through through world design and lore and and backstory flashbacks and things like that?
It's both. So there's definitely more of a focus on overt storytelling this time around, and that was purposeful on the part of the developers. There are cutscenes, there are story, tidbits that are told to you that are non-interactive that you are watching unfold. However, the development team is very quick to add, they're all skippable. Nothing is forced. If you just want to come into Doom for that Doom gameplay experience and not worry about a story, you don't have to have any of it. So there are the cutscenes, but you can skip them. And then in addition to the cutscenes, there are the lore pickups where you have to go out of your way to find, data log pickups, essentially, where, it's like Samus in Metroid Prime. You scan something and you get a little bit of lore, right? In this, you just pick up a data log, you go to your codex or whatever they call it, and there you go. You get, a new tidbit of information either on a character or a monster or even the weapons you're carrying, but all of it is completely optional and, avoidable if you don't want to deal with it. So you can skip the cutscenes and you can just stay on the beaten path if you don't want to go out of your way looking for hidden lore pickups.
Okay. Well, this game is sounding absolutely insane. I can't wait for it myself. Just to preface as well, they didn't say anything about the Switch version to you because, of course, that version doesn't have a date yet and isn't coming out the same day as Animal Crossing, like the other versions, which are.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to say about Doom Eternal?
A couple of things. I would say, just to piggyback off what you were saying with the Switch version, I know people are going to be asking, so I should just mention we were all playing on a PC build. We don't know how optimized it was. We don't know how final it was. It ran great. There were a few hiccups here and there, but in general, it ran incredibly well. It looked fantastic, as you've seen from the direct feed and the B-roll. So yeah, we can't tell you what the PS4 or Xbox One versions look like. However, I was told that they are targeting 60 frames per second for those versions. They wouldn't confirm anything to me with the Switch version one way or another, but I think, we can all probably safely assume that they're going to be targeting 30 frames per second on Switch, just given the hardware disparity there. But clearly, it probably won't matter given how Doom 2016 turned out, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, Doom 2016 is a great port. It has gyro controls as well. And after that, Panic Button took on Wolfenstein 2, which was even better. It's not a better game than Doom, but in terms of just the build in their port, it was really high quality. So I'm expecting some pretty good things out of this Switch port of Doom Eternal. Yeah,
I can't confirm anything one way or the other, like I said, although I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't be getting motion controls in there, that they aren't really trying to go for the same general porting experience that they gave us with Doom 2016. The other thing I'd mention is, even though I'm not like a hardcore Doom fanatic, I do know Doom's music because I love video game music, and the very first music sting you hear is a loose reinterpretation of the first level in Doom, and it's the coolest thing. So if you guys are those of you out there who are Doom fans who are super into heavy metal and all that, I mean, that is the Doom soundtrack experience you're getting with Eternal as well. And you'll hear some various classic Doom callbacks too.
Yeah, 2016 has had an amazing soundtrack as well, and I can't wait to hear what Eternal has in store.
Oh yeah, I mean, even as someone who's not into metal or the general Doom aesthetic, it's, even for me, it's hard not to get caught up into the intensity and the carnage of it when you're just, when you get really good at, it kind of knowing what each thing does in terms of, okay, glory kills, health, ammo is, with chainsaw. Once you get good at kind of swapping between those three and thinking on your feet and learning how the game wants you to play it, it gets really just exciting. It's just really exciting. It's really visceral, and you just feel that, then you have the metal pumping in your ears, and it's like, okay, even if I'm not into this in general, normally, I could totally see why people love this, and it made me want to play Eternal when it comes out, for sure.
I overuse this term in our Game of the Decade discussions, but it's about mastery. It's about, just sort of hearing that music and knowing enemies are going to appear, seeing the enemy formation, seeing their silhouette, bringing out the right weapon to deal with them, and just jumping around all over the place and shooting some demons. That's what Doom's all about. And it sounds like Eternal just delivers on that in spades.
Totally. Although I did say I thought you were going to say comfy.
Was it cozy? Was your experience with Eternal cozy?
Oh, it was cozy. I thought it was comfy for some reason. You're right. I don't know if I would say cozy, only because I'm not coming from a place of having played a ton of Doom 2016, so it doesn't necessarily feel like coming home. And the other reason, I think, is because even playing on the easiest difficulty, I was still dying a little later on in the campaign because the game never lets you get too cozy. That's the thing, is like, the designers even said in our Q&A, we designed it in such a way that it's always keeping you just outside of your comfort zone. We don't want you to get too complacent, because then it becomes not fun, because then it's too easy. So even on the easiest difficulty setting, they're always trying to just keep you just outside of the zone where you feel like you figured it all out, and they do a really good job of that.
The back of the box should say, cozy with an edge.
Cozy when you want it to be.
Alright, I think that's more or less our what we have to say about Doom Eternal for now, unless there's anything else you want to say, Ash.
No, I think I nailed it.
Alright, well, thank you all for watching, and of course, if you want to hear more about Doom Eternal, you can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter, and we'll be uploading way more about Doom Eternal from now until its release, including a review whenever it comes out. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and of course be sure to subscribe to Game Explain and also ring that bell for a lot more on Doom Eternal, and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye!